The TV is on. It's quiet in your room now, the kind of quiet that only happens at night when the rest of the world has finally gone still. Your blanket is warm, tucked up to your chin. The hallway light peeks under the door, just a sliver. But it's not dark. Because across from you, the old box TV is still glowing. Soft blue light pulses against the walls. You hear it, the gentle hum of the screen, a familiar melody in the background, the low crackle of VHS static that makes everything feel just a little fuzzy like a memory. And it is a memory. You're not really watching anymore. Your eyes are half shut. The characters on screen are blurry, almost melting into the haze of sleep. But the voices, you know them by heart. Scooby's laugh. Shaggy mumbling about sandwiches. Bugs Bunny saying, "What's up, Doc?" Daffy Duck throwing another tantrum. It's all so familiar, so simple, so safe. You didn't need a reason to fall asleep to cartoons. It just happened. 1 minute, you were sitting up in bed, flipping through channels. The next, you were curled up in that perfect corner of the mattress, the sound of cartoons rocking you to sleep. And no one told you to turn it off. Because this quiet little ritual was something sacred. It didn't matter how many times you'd seen the same Scooby-Doo episode. You didn't care that Bugs Bunny's jokes were from 1962. You didn't even need to know what was happening. You just needed the sound. That soft, cozy buzz of a world where everything was silly and no one ever really got hurt. Where the good guys always won and the background music never stopped playing. You never really thought about it back then, but now you realize cartoons didn't just entertain us. They cradled us. They wrapped us in comfort. They told us, without words, that it was okay to let go of the day. Because tomorrow, those same cartoons would be right there waiting. It was a simpler time. No notifications, no scrolling, no loud commercials trying to sell you something. Just you, a bowl of cereal, maybe a few leftover fruit roll-ups, and the soft fuzz of late-night reruns. You fell asleep to laughter, to music, to voices you trusted. And even now, years later, you miss it. Maybe that's why you're here. Because something deep in your memory remembers how it felt to fall asleep in front of the TV, not because you planned to, but because your body just gave in to the warmth, to the rhythm, to the background noise of a cartoon world that asked nothing from you except to just be there. And so tonight, we're going back to the golden glow of old animation, back to theme songs we could hum in our sleep, back to a time when life was slower, quieter, and a little bit sillier. This isn't just a video. It's a return. To bedtime stories told by Scooby-Doo, to lullabies sung by Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, to the kind of peace only a well-loved VHS tape can bring. So go ahead, pull that blanket up, let your shoulders drop, let your breathing slow. You don't have to do anything else tonight. No more to-do lists. No more worrying about tomorrow. No more checking the time. This is your time. Your rerun. Your soft little corner of the world where everything is gentle and familiar. We're starting with Scooby, then Bugs, then maybe a few bumpers from Late Night Cartoon Network. And if you're still awake by then, well, we've got plenty more memories waiting. Because here on the Pillow Time Network, you don't have to keep up. You can just drift. Let your mind wander. Let the cartoons take over. Let yourself fall. gently, quietly, into sleep. We'll be right here rerunning the best parts just like we always did. So, sleep tight. Remember the opening theme the exact moment it started. That groovy surf guitar riff, the haunted house synths, Scooby's bark, Shaggy's voice, Velma's jinkies. Even now, just thinking about it makes something in your chest loosen like a sigh you didn't know you were holding. The second it played, you didn't need to think. You were safe. Back then, Scooby-Doo wasn't scary. It was goofy, predictable, like comfort food for your brain. There was always a spooky mansion, a chase scene, a guy in a mask. But it never made you nervous. It made you sleepy. The colors were soft and faded like old cereal boxes. The animation, a little clunky. But that's what made it beautiful. You weren't watching the animation. You were watching because you knew what was coming. The mystery would start, the gang would split up, the villain would be caught, and everything would go back to normal every time. Scooby-Doo didn't change. The formula didn't change. And in a world that was changing, you were growing up. Your bed felt too small. School got harder. Scooby-Doo stayed the same. That van still rolled into every creepy town with bats in the sky. Fred still had a plan. Daphne still had style. Velma still dropped her glasses. Shaggy still screamed. Scooby still said, "Ruh-roh," with his mouth full of sandwich. Every character had a rhythm, like characters in a lullaby. Fred was the voice of reason, calm, square-jawed, always taking charge. He made you feel like someone had a plan, that no matter how weird things got, someone knew what to do. Velma was smart, thoughtful, focused. You didn't need to be loud to be important, and Velma proved that. When she spoke, it felt like a warm cup of cocoa, stable, precise. Daphne was grace and curiosity wrapped up in lavender. She brought color to every gray backdrop. She reminded you that adventure could be beautiful. Shaggy was chaos, but the kind of chaos that makes you laugh in the dark. He was scared, but never gave up, hungry, but always loyal. He reminded you that you didn't need to be brave to be a hero, just willing. And Scooby? Scooby was a dog, a clown, a best friend, a fuzzy heartbeat. You trusted him. And in your dreams, he was always there. You'd watch the show from under your blanket feet, curled up, lights off, maybe a nightlight glowing blue. The TV glowed across the room. The picture was fuzzy, maybe even a little too bright. You didn't care. Sometimes the episode was one you'd already seen, maybe twice. And that was even better. Because when you knew every scene, when you could say the lines with them, that's when your brain stopped spinning. That's when your body started to sink. There was something magical about those reruns. Like VHS tape stuck on loop. Hey, Cartoon Network would play Scooby-Doo late long after prime time ended. And your parents assumed you were asleep. But you weren't. You were watching, breathing slowly, blinking heavier. The laugh track would fade in. Someone would say, "Jeepers." Someone would fall through a trapdoor. And you'd feel your limbs go soft. You'd drift. Scooby-Doo episodes were built like bedtime stories. Not too loud, not too complex. Just enough twist to keep your eyes open for 10 more minutes. Just enough comfort to let you close them at the commercial break. Even the commercials were cozy. You remember them. Sugary cereal, action figures. That weird foggy PSA with kids skateboarding in space helmets. And the Cartoon Network announcer's voice low, slow, smooth. As the show rolled on, your room became a dream zone. The hum of the fan, the flicker of the CRT screen, the warm weight of your blanket, the smell of carpet, a faint glow from the hallway, the dog breathing at your feet, not Scooby, but close enough. You didn't need the plot. You didn't care who the villain was. Was it the janitor, the groundskeeper, the carnival manager? Didn't matter, because you knew it would all end the same way. The mask would come off. The mystery would be solved. The gang would laugh in a freeze frame. The music would swell, and your eyes would finally close. Scooby-Doo trained your brain for sleep. He taught you how to wind down, to accept that even in the weirdest places, haunted castles, abandoned amusement parks, there's order, there's rhythm, there's peace. You never saw the end credits. You always fell asleep before then. But that was the point. Even now, as an adult, when you hear that theme just faintly, your body remembers. Your eyelids get heavy. Your breath slows. Your muscles unclench. Because Scooby-Doo isn't just a show. He's the sound of falling asleep with nothing to worry about. Some nights, you didn't even finish the episode. You'd wake up hours later with the screen blue, the TV quietly buzzing, the room colder than before. Your blanket kicked off halfway, a little drool on the pillow. And maybe Scooby-Doo still echoing faintly in your ears like a dream that hadn't fully left. That's the thing. Scooby-Doo episodes blurred into dreams so easily. You couldn't tell where the show ended and your mind picked up the rest. You'd drift off during a chase scene and dream of running with the gang. Or you'd imagine a ghost behind your closet door, but not a scary ghost. A Scooby-Doo ghost. The kind that ends up being just a mailman in a wig. Even the fear was friendly. Everything in Scooby-Doo was safe scary. The monsters were fake. The danger was temporary. And deep down, you always knew they'd catch the bad guy. They'd explain everything. It would all make sense. And that gave your brain permission to shut down. Because there was no cliffhanger, no violence, no real evil, just puzzles, laughter, routine. And as a kid, or even now, routine is comfort. That's why reruns work so well. Not just because they were familiar, but because they never changed. Every line, every trap, every rule roll. They were lullabies. In their own weird, cartoony language, they were telling you, we've been through this before. We'll get through it again. You don't have to stay awake to see it end. And maybe that's the real magic. He's the flickering light of a bedtime TV screen dancing on your wall. The voice that told you in its own strange, spooky way, you're safe, you're home, you can rest now. The weirdest bedtime lullaby we ever loved. You never really understood what was going on in Looney Tunes. Not completely. There were no lessons, no logic, no moral to the story. Just explosions, chases, wacky sounds. Talking animals doing impossible things over and over again. But somehow, that chaos made the world feel calm. Because no matter how crazy it got, Bugs, Bunny never lost. The coyote never caught the roadrunner. And no one ever really got hurt. It was wild, It was ridiculous, but it was safe. It was the kind of madness your brain could let go inside of. As the rest of the world turned off its lights, Looney Tunes turned up the absurdity. And there you were, lying under your blanket, the blue TV glow flickering across your ceiling, watching Daffy Duck get his beak blown off for the 100th time. You knew every gag by heart. You knew every chase, every fall, every Acme invention, and you loved it more because of that. Looney Tunes wasn't trying to teach you anything. It wasn't a bedtime story in the traditional sense. It was more like a fever dream from the golden age of cartoons. And that dream became part of your sleep routine. You'll remember the rhythm. Wile E. Coyote would set up a giant slingshot. The Roadrunner would beep off into the desert. The coyote would fire himself straight into a canyon wall, and then puff a little dust cloud, a bird zip, and a boing goog, and then he'd do it again, and again, and again, until you weren't even watching anymore. Your eyes half shut, your thoughts drifting, but still chuckling faintly because some part of your brain knew. Yeah, he's gonna fall again. It was hypnotic. A bedtime spiral of anvils and dynamite and cartoon screams that somehow said, "It's okay, nothing changes here." There was something beautiful about how Looney Tunes never followed the rules, not just the laws of physics, but the laws of sense. A rabbit outsmarts a hunter with a carrot and a dress. A duck argues with a rabbit about which hunting season it is. A tiny yellow bird constantly escapes a cat because of grandma and gravity. None of it should have worked. But somehow, it was perfect bedtime viewing. Because in the Looney Tunes universe, chaos was comfort. And Bugs Bunny, he wasn't just a cartoon. He was a cool breeze on a summer night. He had that sly smile, that Brooklyn accent, that, "Hey, what's up, Doc?" that told you no matter what happened, he was in control. He was the king of cartoon calm, the eye of the hurricane, the reason you could fall asleep with a grin. When Bugs was on screen, you knew things would never go too far. He might drop a piano on someone. He might send Elmer Fudd off a cliff. But you knew it would all reset in the next scene, no harm, no foul. And you were along for the ride. The best part, no plot, no cliffhangers, no emotional investment. No need to wonder what happened next. It was all noise and color and chaos served up in soft 3 VHS grain. It asked nothing from you. And when you're a kid or even an exhausted adult, that's the greatest gift. You didn't have to stay awake. You didn't have to understand. You didn't even have to think. Just let the wildness wash over you. Let Yosemite Sam scream. Let Sylvester Chase talk. Let Taz spin. Let it all blur into the fuzz of your CRT, the static between episodes, the gentle creak of the floorboards at night. Let it become your lullaby. Maybe the beauty of Looney Tunes was that it didn't make sense, and that was the point. Because the world doesn't always make sense either. But in the world of Looney Tunes, no one really gets hurt. The bad guys always lose. And everything resets in the morning. Isn't that what sleep is? A daily reset. A falling down an anvil staircase kind of dreamscape. A place where logic bends and time loops and nothing's quite real. Looney Tunes didn't just prepare you for sleep. It was sleep. Fast, loud, silly. but ultimately harmless. Forgettable in the best way. The kind of thing that lived just under your eyelids for years. Soft sound, tiny orchestra swell followed by silence. Sometimes you woke up in the middle of the night and Bugs was still on. Your TV had kept playing. The air was cool, your mouth dry, the screen buzzing gently. And there was Daffy again, angry, half-dressed, yelling about something pointless. You smiled and turned over and went back to sleep. Because you didn't need answers. You just needed rhythms. You needed silly sounds and pastel colors. And the safety of knowing Wile E. Coyote would never ever catch that bird. That was the contract Looney Tunes made with you. And it never broke it. Not once. Today you could watch any cartoon in 4K. You could stream 1 billion hours on demand. But you'll never quite recreate the magic of falling asleep to Looney Tunes in a room lit only by the flicker of a dusty tube TV with the volume too low and the chaos so soft it lulled you into dreams. If Scooby-Doo was your bedtime mystery, Looney Tunes was your bedtime mayhem. You could grow up. You could move away. You could forget everything you ever thought was important. But Bugs would still be cracking jokes. Elmer would still be hunting rabbits. And Marvin the Martian would still be plotting to blow up Earth because it obstructs his view of Venus. In a world that changes fast, too fast, Looney Tunes stood still, like a snapshot in time. Like a tape that never wore out. Like a memory you can rewind whenever you need to feel safe again. And for some of us, it was safety. Because no matter how loud things got at school, at home, in your own head, Looney Tunes was louder and funnier and kinder in its own bizarre way. It took you out of the real world just long enough to exhale, just long enough to rest. A nonsensical symphony of crashes, gags, and giggles softened by time and VHS tape hiss. Cartoon chaos at its calmest. And somehow, it still makes you sleepy. You didn't need the show to keep watching. Not really. Because half the magic wasn't in the cartoons, it was between them. Those little gaps. Those breathy, blurry spaces. The quiet before the next burst of energy. The part where nothing really happened, and yet, somehow, everything did. You'd be sitting there, legs under a blanket, bowl of cereal half finished, eyes just starting to glaze over, and then suddenly, we'll be right back with more Cartoon Network. And it wasn't a real commercial. Not one of those fast-paced toy ads or hyper kids screaming about Go Gert. No, it was something else. Something slower, softer, stranger. Maybe a claymation bumper or a 10-second looping animation of Johnny Bravo lifting weights in the dark. Maybe it was just a sleepy voice saying, coming up next, the Powerpuff Girls, over a wavy blue background and a lazy synth chord. You didn't question it. You didn't need to. Because that little moment meant something. It meant you were still inside the dream. Still floating inside that warm, glowing cartoon world, not quite asleep, not quite awake. These fake commercials, the ones that didn't sell anything, became the rhythm of your night. They told your brain it was okay to rest now. That nothing urgent was coming. That everything was predictable. That in 90 seconds or so, you'd be right back in that same episode watching Ed, and Eddie chase a jawbreaker like it was the meaning of life. But for now, it was pause. It was peace. it was the hush between the punchlines. Sometimes it wasn't even a bumper. Sometimes it was those weird PSAs, remember those? Stop, look, and listen, with the cartoon fireman dog. Or the Life with Louie-style animation about washing your hands before dinner. They weren't flashy. They weren't funny, but they felt gentle. Like someone older was watching out for you. Even the "Let's all go to the lobby" parody shorts felt like lullabies, a hot dog tap dancing across the screen, backed by sleepy jazz. And the design, the look of it all. Muted colors, scratchy film grain, soft pastel shapes drifting around black space. Cartoon Network's interstitials weren't meant to wake you up. They were built to drift, to lull, to glide. You could feel the VHS texture in your brain, that slightly warped warble in the audio, the tape hiss under the music, the CRT glow bathing your room in pixelated blues and pinks. It didn't matter if the tape was old, if the commercials were outdated, if the shows were reruns. Because in those late night hours, when the world was silent and the lights were off, you didn't need new. You needed known. And those fake commercials were as familiar as your own heartbeat. There were certain ones you'd hope to see, even if you didn't know you were hoping. The Cartoon Network city bumpers, remember those? All your favorite characters walking around the same city, bumping into each other like it was one big shared universe. Dexter running into Samurai Jack. Courage peeking out from behind a trash can. Mojo, Jojo waiting for the bus. It was like your world, your whole childhood was stitched together in 15 seconds. It felt like you were being invited in. Like the station was whispering, "You belong here. This place is yours." And then there were the ones that made no sense at all, and that's why you loved them. Those surreal black and white clips. The fake game show host yelling about Cartoon Fridays. That bumper, where a milk carton floated through space while a monotone voice read off the next show lineup. You didn't get it, but you didn't have to. It wasn't about understanding. It was about feeling. Feeling like you were the only person awake. Like you discovered a hidden transmission only kids could hear. Like the whole channel was sending a secret signal straight into your dreams. It was ASMR before that was even a thing. A mood, a tone, a hypnotic little in-between beat that made you lean back into the couch cushions, close your eyes, and drift. Some kids fell asleep to lullabies. You fell asleep too. Up next, cow and chicken. Ding, 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 weird bell noise. But first, a word from our sponsor. That was your white noise, your bedtime song, your safe space. And it wasn't just the content, it was the placement. Commercial breaks gave you structure. You knew when to yawn, when to stretch, when to sip your drink or fix your blanket or look over at your sibling and go, "This part's hilarious." They gave the night a pulse. And when you fell asleep finally, fully, it wasn't during the chaos. It was during the fade out. The bumper, the break. The brief pause when your brain said, "I know what comes next. I can rest." Now, commercials are gone. Streaming skips everything. There are no bumpers, no voices between shows, no little glimmers of magic from nowhere. It's efficient, it's polished, it's clean. But something's missing. Because the bedtime cartoon experience wasn't just the show. It was the space around the show. The silence, the fuzz, the nonsense. The noise that made you feel okay to stop thinking. We chase nostalgia, thinking it's about content. But really, we're chasing rhythm. We miss the flow of it all. The way it used to carry us from one sleepy moment to the next, not by storylines or cliffhangers, but by feeling. Fake commercials felt like rest, like a lull in the middle of a storm. A moment of nothing in a world of too much. And you didn't even realize how much you needed it until it was gone. So here, in this dream of a video, we bring it back. We rewind the tape. We turn down the lights. We let the old commercials roll, the weird ones, the quiet ones, the ones that meant everything and nothing all at once. Because somewhere inside those 10-second clips, inside the low hum of VHS static and pastel title cards and slow-motion logos, there's still a voice whispering, "We'll be right back." And that voice, it's not just promising more cartoons, it's promising return to calm, to comfort, to a time when you could fall asleep between the moments and still feel whole. You never meant to fall asleep during Scooby-Doo, but somehow you always did. There was something about certain episodes, the sleepy ones, the ones with fog and quiet lighthouses and soft mystery music. Not every Scooby-Doo was spooky. Some were slow, gentle, wrapped in a whisper of mystery and moonlight. They didn't jolt you. They rocked you, like lullabies with werewolves. The one with the lighthouse. You know the one. They pull up in the mystery machine near a windy coast. The sky is always that inky midnight blue. Velma talks about a legend. Fred shines a flashlight into the fog, and you can barely hear Shaggy over the waves. The villain, a glowing ghost captain or a pirate with a lantern for a head. But you're not scared. You're watching through half-shut eyes. The music is soft. There's the sound of creaking wood and foghorns. You know they'll split up. You know Shaggy and Scooby will run. You know nothing bad will ever happen. And somehow, that's enough. That episode always felt like a bedtime story disguised as a mystery. Even the chase scene feels like it's in slow motion, like the show is giving you time to doze off before the trap is set. The Phantom in the theater. Somehow, the ghost is always in an abandoned opera house. Red curtains sway even though there's no wind. The spotlight flickers. Scooby's footsteps echo as he tiptoes through the aisle. And you're under the blanket, watching in a dark room. No sound except the gentle glow of the cartoon and the faint breathing of someone sleeping nearby. It was never the plot, never the villain. It was the mood. That calm VHS hum beneath the scene. That moment when Scooby accidentally sits on the ghost and doesn't notice. The gentle boing sound effects. The way Velma's voice said, "Jinkies," like it was her version of goodnight. The forest episode. Not many people talk about this one, but it's burned into your brain. The gang camps near a haunted forest. There's a ghostly figure made of vines or mist. They follow tracks in the dirt. Someone drops a flashlight. A twig snaps. And for a full 30 seconds, no one talks. Just wind. Just owl sounds. Just shadows dancing across the trees. That silence made the whole world go still. You weren't scared. You were mesmerized. Like you were in the cartoon. like you could smell the pine needles, feel the dew, hear Scooby's sniffles blending into your own sleepy breath. These episodes weren't meant to be thrilling. They were meant to happen quietly in the background while you drifted off to the rhythm of rustling leaves and cartoon footfalls. The Masked Ball. It opens with everyone in costumes. The gang's been invited to some spooky rich guy's mansion. Everything is candlelit. Someone's wearing a cape. Scooby tries to dance. Shaggy eats from a chocolate fountain. Daphne disappears. Fred looks concerned, but no one raises their voice. Not even the ghost. Everything is slow, formal, wrapped in velvet and shadows and chandelier light. And that slow pace makes it the perfect episode to play when your body is tired but your mind is still whirling. It pulls you into a cozy crawl. You stop thinking about your day. You stop worrying about tomorrow. Oh, you just float through the cartoon like a ghost in a mansion. Safe, silent, or weightless. The VHS feeling. It wasn't just the episodes. It was how you watched them. Not in HD, not in 4K, but on a fuzzy old tape your cousin recorded from TV in the late 90s. The colors were washed out. The tracking bar danced along the bottom. Sometimes the sound got warbly when someone walked past the VCR, but it didn't matter. Because the moment the tape clicked in and that Scooby-Doo theme played, you were there. Back in that room. On that couch. Under that blanket. You didn't need clarity. You needed comfort. And those sleepy episodes gave it to you. Over and over again. Why they worked. Scooby-Doo wasn't meant to be fall-asleep television. But it became it. Because of the formula, because of the tone, because of you. You knew every beat, every gag, every trap. That familiarity made it safe. And some episodes, the slow ones, felt like this show was helping you sleep, giving you space to yawn, to roll over, to drift. The pacing wasn't tight. It wandered. Like a bedtime story told by someone who's making it up as they go, but it doesn't matter, because you'll be asleep before the ending anyway. Favorite sleepy moments that still live rent-free in your head. Scooby mistaking a ghost for a coat rack. Velma calmly explaining something boring while a monster sneaks behind her. Shaggy floating in midair before falling. The gang hiding in barrels. The closing shot of them laughing, even if you never saw it, because you were already asleep. The wind down effect. Some shows wake you up. Some shows wind you down. Scooby-Doo did both. Boy, it had just enough movement to keep your eyes open. Just enough sound to fill the silence. But not enough chaos to jolt your brain. It was cozy, haunted nonsense. And somehow, your body knew when it started that it was time to start letting go. By the time Fred said, "Let's split up," your breathing slowed. By the time Scooby tiptoed across a hallway, your eyes were heavy. By the time the trap failed and somehow still worked, you were nearly gone. And by the time the villain was unmasked, you were already dreaming. Memory blurred. You probably don't remember these episodes clearly. You remember pieces, moments, moods. The chase scene with the jazzy music, the hallway of doors gag, the floating ghost in the attic. But it's all a blur now. Not because it wasn't important, but because your brain did what it was supposed to do. It relaxed. It drifted. It let the cartoon carry the weight for a while. And all that's left? That dreamy, loopy feeling of being half asleep in a room where everything is okay. Because Scooby-Doo is on. Because nothing bad can happen in a cartoon. Because you've seen this one before 100 times. And you'll see it again. Why you still need it? You're older now. Your bed is different. Your worries are bigger. But sometimes, when the lights are low and the world feels loud, you still wish you had a tape. One of those tapes. With the slow episodes. With the sleepy ones. With the fog and the masks and the mysteries that didn't matter. Because back then, you didn't need answers. You just needed something to play softly in the background. To whisper to your brain, you're okay, you're safe, you can sleep now. And for some reason, Scooby-Doo still knows how to say that. You're deeper now, not fully awake or not fully asleep. That warm static of the TV is still playing. The glow is softer, the colors are dreamier. You don't remember when one episode ended and another began. You're just in it now. The Looney Tunes are back. Round 2. But this time, they're not here to make you laugh. They're here to rock you to sleep the only way they know how. With anvils, and chase scenes, and nonsense. Remember how Bugs Bunny would walk into the wrong cartoon? How he'd pop out of a hole and say, "I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque." And suddenly, the story would change. The background would shift. Now you're in the desert, or a castle, or outer space. It didn't matter, because Bugs was cool. Too cool to care where he was. Too cool to be scared. You could trust him. In round 2, that trust becomes comfort. There's something weirdly calming about watching a rabbit outsmart a hunter with opera, or watching a duck slowly lose his mind, arguing with an off-screen animator who keeps erasing him, or watching the tiny yellow bird bonk a cat over the head with a mallet, with cartoon physics that never made sense, and never had to. The second round of Looney Tunes isn't as loud. It's slower, softer. The characters you know, Bugs, Daffy, Tweety, Sylvester, Elmer, Porky, Foghorn, they're still running around. But their chaos becomes rhythm. Their noise becomes background. And you just drift. There's that one episode you don't remember the title, where Daffy wears a zoot suit and scats with a jazz band made of dancing chickens. Or the one where everything is in black and white, and the villain is a mad scientist with a giant red button labeled "Do Not Press." Or the one where everything loops again and again like a dream you can't quite wake from. It's all jumbled now, but that's okay. Because in your memory, Looney Tunes isn't a series. It's a vibe. In this half-sleep state, Elmer Fudd becomes your bedtime storyteller. He's not hunting wobbits. He's whispering fairy tales in broken consonants. Be viewy, quiet. We're telling dreams tonight. Porky Pig stutters goodnight. Tweety says he taught your eyelids drooping. And Bugs just smiles, offers you a carrot, and gives a wink like, "Hey, time to hit the hay, Doc." The slapstick becomes lullaby. Not because it's quiet, but because it's familiar. Every time Wile E. Coyote falls off a cliff, you know he'll be back. Every time the Roadrunner zips away, you know that Meep is coming. Every time Sylvester sets a trap, you know it's going to backfire. Gloriously. That predictability is a kind of peace. Your brain loves patterns, even silly ones, and Looney Tunes. It's full of loops. Same chase, same fall, same punchline, but every time it's just a little different. Different enough to hold your attention softly, until it doesn't anymore. Until your eyes glaze. Until the sound fades into a blur. Until the cartoon becomes a dream, and a dream becomes a cartoon. You remember the backgrounds, too. Those surreal painted landscapes. Flat pastels, endless deserts, pink trees, yellow skies, purple shadows. Like an artist got bored of reality and started doodling in their notebook, and that doodle became your universe. And the music. Oh, the music. Not songs, not lyrics. Just cues. Flutes for footsteps. Trombones for trouble. Xylophones for tiptoes. That little violin twang when something silly was about to happen. It was a symphony of nonsense. And it was perfect. Round 2 of Looney Tunes feels like a foggy encore. The kind you don't remember asking for, but you're glad it came. The kind that plays in your mind long after the screen goes dark. The kind you hum without realizing. The kind that follows you into dreams like a silly little marching band that tiptoes beside your bed. And the VHS glow, still there, still flickering, fuzzing at the edges. Colors are a little too warm. Sound just slightly warped. Like time stretched it. Like memory melted it. Like sleep dipped it in honey. You don't watch Looney Tunes now. You remember it as it plays. And in that remembering, you relax. There's a rhythm to it, isn't there? Crash. Silence for boring. Giggle. And again, it becomes a pulse. A heart monitor for childhood. A lullaby disguised as slapstick. And it keeps playing. Bugs plays piano with gloved fingers. Elmer gets tricked into singing opera. Daffy's beak gets spun around again. Tweety bonks a broom on Sylvester's head. Wile E. Coyote opens another Ace and Me package with hope in his eyes. And every time, the punchline lands like a pillow. Soft, silly, expected, safe. Because that's what Looney Tunes became. Not just funny, not just classic, but safe. Even when it was absurd, even when it was chaotic, even when it made no sense at all. It made you feel like the world, even the cartoon world, could be weird and wonderful. And that bedtime didn't have to mean silence. It could mean surreal. It could mean nonsense. It could mean joy. So as round 2 plays on, you're not really watching anymore. You're floating. In a sea of cartoon dust clouds and bouncy music, in a half dream where everything is drawn by hand. You feel your thoughts start to drift like a balloon with a loose string. 1 second, you're watching Bugs in a barbershop quartet. The next, you're riding shotgun with Yosemite Sam as he chases a ghost train through the desert. And then, you're not really sure. The screen blurs. The jokes are still happening, but they're miles away now. You hear a crash, a whistle, a duck yelling at someone off screen, but it's all underwater now, like you're hearing it through a pillow. It's not a cartoon anymore, it's a feeling. A sleepy swirl of color and music and rhythm, of characters that never grew up and never made you. Of moments that didn't ask anything from you but to be there. And you were. All those nights. All those reruns. All those moments that passed without fanfare, but somehow etched themselves into your bones. These cartoons didn't just play on the screen. They played in your room, on your bed sheets, on the walls, in your heartbeat, until they weren't just shows anymore. They were part of your bedtime, part of your calm, part of your dreams. In a world where anvils fall and nobody gets hurt, where gravity waits until you look down, and where laughter echoes into sleep, you're under the covers, curled up in your favorite sleeping position. The room is dark, but not completely dark. There's a faint blue glow dancing on the ceiling. It flickers. It buzzes gently. It hums like a lullaby for kids who didn't want to go to bed just yet. The TV is still on. The volume's low enough that your parents wouldn't notice if they peeked in, but loud enough to hear the soft, crackly dialogue of some rerun playing on Channel 57 or maybe 62. You don't remember the numbers anymore, but you remember the feeling. Click. New show. Click. Commercial. Click. Cartoon. The remote feels heavy in your hand, warm from being held too long. The kind of warm that makes your fingers go limp. And slowly, the channel surfing turns into dream surfing. There was a rhythm to late-night TV, a sacred, sleepy rhythm that only kids who stayed up past bedtime knew. You'd lie in bed, flipping through static and syndicated weirdness, old sitcoms, faded cartoons, reruns of shows from before you were even born. Some of them made no sense. Some were so boring they circled back around to hypnotic. And some, the best ones, were weird enough to feel like dreams with a laugh track. A janitor talking to a puppet? Sure. A sci-fi show where the spaceship looks like a toaster? Why not? An animated blob that dances to jazz? That's bedtime gold. You weren't watching exactly. You were absorbing, letting the shows wash over you like waves of warm static. Your brain was turning off, but your imagination wasn't. Sometimes you landed on a local UHF channel, the kind that still showed black and white cartoons and public access weirdness. There might be a crusty old cartoon from the 1930s, where everyone danced the Charleston and the music sounded like it was coming through a tin can. Or maybe a bizarre PSA would play. One with a mascot warning you not to do drugs or eat too many sugar cereals, right before a commercial for sugar cereal came on. The contradictions didn't matter. Everything blurred into one long fuzzy signal that lulled you to sleep. And then there were the bumpers. Oh, the bumpers. Those in-between moments that weren't quite show, not quite commercial. A kid blowing bubblegum in slow motion. A jingle that went, "You're watching Channel 37, the Fun Zone." A pixelated logo of a cartoon dog wearing sunglasses. Or just the sound of wind and a title card that said, "Up next, who knows?" They were liminal spaces, little hypnotic hallways between dreams. Sometimes those bumpers were the best part, because they didn't mean anything. They were just weird and silly and oddly comforting, like someone reminding you, hey, don't worry, there's more. Just stay cozy. And then came the real magic. You found something. Some perfect late-night show that you weren't supposed to be awake for. Maybe it was a Looney Tune rerun that never aired during the day. Or a forgotten Cartoon Network, short with no dialogue, just music and shapes. Or maybe it was one of those weird anthology cartoons, the kind that felt like dreams within dreams. The colors were dull. The animation was rough. The characters looked tired. And you loved every second. Because it wasn't for everyone. It was just for you. The late-night cartoon kids, the channel surfers, the ones who stayed up just a little too late and found a secret world tucked between the static. Your eyelids were heavy. You don't remember falling asleep, just floating. One minute you were laughing at a cartoon chicken trying to escape a barn. The next, your hand slipped off the remote. Your pillow got warm. Your foot found the cool spot on the mattress. And somewhere between a cereal commercial and a rerun of Johnny Bravo, you slipped under. The TV kept going. So did the cartoons. But you were dreaming in reruns. Let's pause for a second. Do you remember this? Not the shows, not the episodes, but the feeling of lying in bed, of not caring what came on next, of letting the television talk you to sleep. It was like radio waves were whispering bedtime stories just for you. Like every beep and bowing and punchline was a hug for your brain. And it wasn't just cartoons. Late at night, every show became a little sleepier. The laugh track slowed down. The lighting got dimmer. Even the commercials felt quieter. You'd hear a jingle for a toy you never owned, but now it lives in your memory like it was yours. You'd see a cartoon dog riding a skateboard and think, that's enough for today. And your brain would nod, and your body would follow, and the world would shrink to that tiny glowing box in your room, a lighthouse blinking across a sea of dreams. Remember flipping to Nick at night, or Toonami at 1 a.m., or that local channel with the static that kind of looked like a face if you stared long enough? Each one was a doorway, Isa. And each time you clicked, you weren't just changing the channel. You were chasing comfort, chasing calm, chasing that exact mix of voices, colors, and noise that would tuck you in from the inside. Your TV was your nightlight, not bright enough to keep you up, but warm enough to keep you company. You didn't need plot. You didn't need twists. You didn't need to understand what was happening. You just needed to be there. Let the channel surfing carry you downriver. Past memories, past noise, past thought. Until the buttons on the remote stopped being pressed. Until the static became silence. Until the flickering glow was just part of the dream. And now, even though those TVs are gone, even though the remotes are quieter, even though shows are streamed instead of tuned, you can still feel it. You close your eyes and you can hear the click. You can see the fuzzy logos. You can smell the soft warmth of a blanket on a summer night in a room lit by cartoons. That comfort didn't go anywhere. It just changed frequencies. Now, Pillow Time is your channel, your rerun, your fuzzy corner of the universe where nothing is expected of you except to rest. So grab the remote, click through your memories, flip past the noise. Maybe you didn't realize it at the time, but channel surfing wasn't really about finding something specific. It was about the feeling of possibility. The idea that anything could come on next. That magic mix of randomness and routine. You'd flip through 5 channels and land on a cartoon you barely remembered the name of, but it didn't matter. You were just glad it was there. Like an old friend sitting at the edge of your bed, saying nothing, doing nothing, just being there until your eyes got heavy. Sometimes you'd hit static. Sometimes a news anchor mumbling something boring. Sometimes a commercial that was far too loud. But then, click, there it was. That one just right rerun. An old Scooby-Doo. A Looney Tune mid-explosion. Or some obscure cartoon that only aired past midnight. Too weird for daytime, too perfect for the edge of sleep. And slowly, like a fog rolling in, your thoughts would blur. Not quite dreams, not quite waking. You'd drift between the shows and the glow and your own little sleepy stories. The sound from the TV would blend with the hum of the night. A car passing outside. The faint buzz of your nightlight. The slow breath of someone in the next room. All of it became one soft background noise, like the universe was whispering you to sleep. And in that quiet in-between space, where the real world faded and the dreams hadn't started yet, you felt held, not by the blanket, not by the bed, but by the rhythm of it all, the flipping, the fuzz, the flicker. Even now, years later, that rhythm is still in you. Your brain remembers. Your heart remembers. So tonight, let's not overthink. Let's not chase the perfect episode. Let's not worry about where it's going. Let's just click through the cozy static of memory. Let the glow soften. Let your shoulders drop. The episode was never really the point. Sure, you had your favorites, your go-to reruns, your ooh, this one's your moments. But more than anything, you loved the ritual, the way it all happened, the steps that felt sacred, the quiet ceremony of childhood nights. It would start with pajamas. Not the kind you wear now, practical, minimal, adult, but the good ones. Soft flannel, cartoon prints. Maybe a matching top and bottom that made you feel like a Saturday morning superhero. And then there was the snack. Cereal in a plastic bowl. Microwave popcorn that smelled like butter and salt and a little bit of freedom. Or a glass of milk, cold, comforting, like a nightlight in a cup. Then the lights would go dim. Just the glow of the TV. Or maybe the hallway light spilling in like moonlight through a cracked door. And you'd settle in, on the couch, or in bed, or lying sideways on the carpet, chin in your hands, staring up like the television was a sky full of color. The cartoons were just the soundtrack. The real magic was in the rhythm, the click of the remote, the whoosh of blankets pulled up to your chin, the distant sound of someone brushing their teeth down the hall. The gentle static hum that said, it's nighttime and everything's okay. Even now, your body remembers it. That slow unwinding, the yawn you didn't fight, the way your eyes got heavy right after the second commercial break, the little twitch of your foot under the covers as your brain started to power down. You didn't know it then, but you were building a ritual, one that told your heart, you're safe. One that told your brain, you don't have to think anymore. And one that told your soul, it's okay to rest. It didn't need candles or chanting or crystals, just a cartoon. A couch, and maybe a stuffed animal squished against your side. And on nights when things didn't feel right, when the day had been too long or too loud or too sad, that ritual became even more important. Because the cartoons didn't change. The world outside could be chaos. Homework and hurt feelings and growing pains and stuff you couldn't quite explain yet. But in here, in this little glowing world of color and laughter and background music. Everything made sense. Fred would split up the gang. Bugs would outsmart someone twice his size. Tom would never catch Jerry. And you curled up and blinking slowly would be okay. Because this ritual, this goofy little nightly pattern, was your version of a lullaby. Not sung, but played. Not soft music, but soft memory. And somehow, it worked. Night after night, year after year. And the wildest part, you weren't alone. Across the country, maybe across the world, there were kids just like you, doing the same thing at the same time, wiggling under blankets, crunching cereal, falling asleep to the same Scooby-Doo chase music. None of you knew it, but you were part of a secret bedtime club. Your membership card, a TV remote, a glow-in-the-dark sticker, a brain that said, just one more episode, before your eyelid said, nope. It wasn't just a habit. It was a memory machine. Even now, when you close your eyes and try to fall asleep, those old sounds come back. The way the theme song hit the same notes every time, the exact pitch of a character's laugh, the low hum of VHS tape fuzz or a CRT screen warming up. Sometimes the best rituals don't come from books or traditions. They come from comfort, from repetition, from silliness that somehow feels sacred. Maybe you still do it. Maybe you still need a show playing quietly in the background. Maybe you've swapped Scooby for something new, but the feeling's the same. That craving for something predictable, gentle, safe. That moment when the noise of the day fades out and the friendly noise of night fades in. That's the ritual, and it's not gone. It's just grown with you. Now the cereal bowl might be a cup of tea. The cartoon might be a podcast. The fuzzy blanket might be a playlist called Childhood TV Vibes. But deep down, you're still that kid, still brushing your teeth fast so you don't miss the start. Still flipping through channels, hoping to land on the right kind of weird. Still feeling your eyes get heavy the second the music starts playing. Still using the glow of a screen to guide you gently into dreams. And maybe, just maybe, you're passing it on now. Maybe you're showing your kids these old shows. Maybe you're laughing at the same silly jokes from decades ago, and they're laughing with you. Or maybe you're just watching alone, late at night, because some part of you still needs the comfort, still needs the noise, still needs the ritual. And that's okay, because rituals don't have to be big. They don't have to be complicated. They just have to mean something. And this goofy, colorful, static-soaked bedtime pattern, it meant everything. There were nights when you fought sleep. Tried to stay up through the whole marathon. Promised yourself you'd make it until the 2 a.m. credits, but you never did. The rhythm was too soft. The glow too warm. The comfort too deep. Your brain would float. Your body would sink. And the cartoons would keep playing, just long enough to carry you across the threshold. That was the real magic. The way it wasn't about the story, wasn't about the animation, wasn't about the plot twist or punchline. It was about the feeling. The quiet, cozy, time-traveling, heart-softening feeling of being held by something familiar. And if you listen closely, you can still hear it. The opening notes of an old theme song. The crackle of an old VHS tape. the gentle click of the TV turning off, and the silence after. The kind that wraps around you like a blanket and says, "You're done for today. You did enough. You can sleep now." So tonight, here now, you don't need to chase productivity. You don't need to scroll. You don't need to be anywhere else. Just follow the ritual the same way you always have. Let your shoulders relax. Let your breath slow down. Let the cartoons whisper you into stillness. Some nights, you didn't even make it to the end. The voices of the characters would blur. The colors would start to swirl into one sleepy haze. You'd hear the laugh track echoing from what felt like far away. And then nothing. Gone. Asleep. The credits would roll without you. The next episode would play without you. And the TV would hum softly in a room now ruled by silence. Because your body had done what it knew how to do. What it had been trained to do every night for years. It had followed the signal. It had heard the cue, the theme song, the fade to black, the goofy punchline. They weren't just entertainment. They were lullabies. You didn't know how special it was at the time, how rare it is to feel safe enough to fall asleep during something you love, to let the world fade without fear, to let your brain rest without resistance. As a kid, you just thought that's how nights were supposed to feel. Warm, silly, slow. But now you understand how magical that was. How sacred those ordinary, everyday rituals became. How they stitched comfort into your memory. And how, somehow, even years later, you still chase that feeling. You've tried other methods, meditation apps, weighted blankets, no screens before bed rules. But none of them hit the same way. None of them feel like turning on Cartoon Network at 8:59 p.m. just in time for the late night laugh zone. None of them have that sleepy magic. The kind that lives in a goofy commercial jingle or a closing theme you haven't heard in 20 years, but can still hum without thinking. Maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's muscle memory. Or maybe it's a reminder that once upon a time, you didn't need a 5-step nighttime routine. You didn't need essential oils or blackout curtains or journaling. You just needed Scooby-Doo or Dexter's Lab or Looney Tunes or some strange anime that only aired after 10 p.m. And you weren't supposed to watch, but you did anyway. And somehow, that was enough. Even the imperfections of those nights became part of the charm. The static, the volume being too loud, then too soft. The way the colors looked a little off on that old TV. The fact that you'd have to smack the remote to get it to work, or adjust the antenna to get a clearer picture, or fiddle with the VHS tracking until the lines stopped crawling across the screen. It was a mess. A beautiful, funny, totally human mess. And that's what made it real. That's what made it yours. It wasn't about the shows being perfect, or the night going smoothly, or the snack not spilling. It was about the feeling, that slow descent into stillness, that steady fade into comfort, that invisible hand that guided you toward sleep. And it didn't matter if the animation was clunky, or if the plot didn't make sense, or if you'd seen the episode 100 times before. In fact, that made it better, because there's something magical about repetition, about knowing what comes next. about being able to predict the punchline and still giggle when it lands. That's what the nighttime ritual gave you. A sense of certainty, of rhythm, of peace. In a world that changed so quickly, where school got harder and friendships got weirder and your body grew in ways you didn't understand, these shows stayed the same. The villains were always caught. The laughs always came. The dog always talked. The mouse always won. And you always made it to sleep eventually. Now, all these years later, you find yourself chasing that same rhythm. Even if your days look different, even if your nights are more complicated, you still crave that comfort, that flickering TV glow, that last yawn before the fade out, that goofy voice saying something completely ridiculous just as your eyes finally close, because part of you is still there, still lying on the floor in front of the TV, still wearing pajamas that are 2 sizes too big, still laughing at the same joke for the 10th time. Still believing, even if you don't realize it, that bedtime can be soft and silly and safe. And that's why the ritual matters. Not because it's impressive, not because it's productive, not because it's anything you can measure, but because it works. Because in a world that's too fast and too loud and too serious, you deserve to fall asleep like a kid again, wrapped in a blanket of cartoons and commercials and candy-colored chaos, with no pressure to be anything, with no fear of missing out, with no goal but to drift. Drift into the background music. Drift into the rerun. Drift into the same goofy magic that once held you night after night, and still does. And that brings us to this moment, this screen hole, this sound, this exact point in the night. You've done enough. You've stayed awake long enough. You've followed the thread, the memory, the rhythm, and now it's time to let go, to melt, to breathe slower, to return to that soft, silly place inside you that never really left. Because no matter how much time has passed, no matter how grown you think you are, your nighttime ritual still waits for you, still welcomes you, still wraps around you like a blanket made of theme songs and laughter. This is your time, your space, your story. And it starts, like always, with a flicker of light, a familiar sound, and a whole lot of comfort. You've been here before, not just tonight, but always. This moment, this hush, this quiet return to somewhere safe and familiar, where the volume is low, where the light flickers in slow pulses against the ceiling, where the world outside goes silent, and all that's left is you and this feeling, the end of the night. But not really the end, more like the beginning of a loop, a perfect lazy circle that drifts endlessly back to where you started, back to the cartoons, back to the comfort, back to the version of you who didn't need to know the time or worry about the morning. Oh, just the loop, just the rhythm, just reruns and dreams. You know this place not as a location, but as a feeling. It smells like warm blankets and cool pillows. It sounds like the soft clunk of a VCR. It looks like those midnight colors on screen, deep blues, warm purples, sleepy greens, and everything feels soft. The edges of your thoughts, the corners of your memories, even the shows themselves. Cartoons that used to feel fast and funny now feel slow, like they're floating, each frame stretching out into the next. Each line of dialogue spoken gently like it knows you're half asleep. You're not really watching anymore. You're remembering, drifting, looping. Think of how many nights were just like this. You, the couch, the glow of the screen, a bowl of cereal half finished, the credits of a cartoon rolling quietly into a promo, then into a bumper, then into another cartoon, and you'd whisper to yourself, okay, just one more. But you never made it through that next one, because it was never really about finishing anything. It was about being held in something. A moment, a mood, a loop of love, light, and laziness. Now, tonight, the loop is here again. You didn't plan it. You didn't chase it. It just found you like an old friend who never stopped showing up. The cartoon started playing. The lights dimmed. Your body shifted under the covers. And slowly, that familiar stillness came back. You remember the final scenes of the best episodes. How they'd all laugh at the end, even if the monster was fake. How Scooby would get his snack. How Bugs would wink at the camera and say, "Ain't I a stinker?" How the credits would play with a bouncy tune, and you'd lie there, eyelids fluttering, thinking you might stay up just a little longer. But of course you didn't. Because something about those endings, those gentle cartoon goodbyes, they didn't need you to stay. They were there for you, even if you drifted away. This loop you're in now, it doesn't end with a bang. It ends with a hush. Like an old Cartoon Network bumper easing into a fade, or a TV going dark, not with a click, but with a slow fade to black. It ends like a memory you didn't know you still had. Like a smell you haven't smelled in years. But the second it hits you, your whole body remembers. Maybe that's what sleep really is. A return to the loops that shaped us. The melodies, the images, the rituals. We fall asleep not to escape the day, but to return to ourselves. To what made us feel safe. To what taught us how to be. Even if it was just cartoons. Especially if it was just cartoons. Because cartoons never asked anything of you. They just played. They just repeated. They just waited for you to come back. You could leave the room, fall asleep, miss whole chunks. And when you returned, they were still there. Still looping. Still smiling. Still singing their silly little songs. That's what this is. That's what you're in now. A loop. But not a trap of comfort. A soft hallway of memories, bending back into itself, letting you walk forever without ever feeling lost. Each step familiar. Each scene cozy. Each second slower than the last. Until time forgets how to move forward. And you forget that you're even watching. You're just feeling, breathing, drifting. Even the cartoons seem sleepier now. Like they know you're not really awake. Like they're whispering the punchlines. And maybe you laugh a little, even with your eyes closed. Because part of you is still there. Still watching, still looping. But the rest of you, already gone. Back then, you never thought of these shows as lullabies. But now, what else could they be? Not just noise, not just filler, but ritual, rhythm, repetition that rocks you into rest. It's why the characters never really changed, why the storylines repeated, why the soundtracks never skipped a beat. Because deep down, you weren't watching for the plot. You were watching to feel okay, to feel safe. to feel like the world outside could wait. That whatever was going on tomorrow didn't matter, not yet. Not now. Not in the loop. That's why we come back. Not for new stories, but for the old ones told again. Slightly out of order. A little dusty around the edges. But that dust, that's part of the charm. That's memory glitter. That's bedtime magic. So here you are again, 2 hours later. Still listening. Still floating. Maybe not even awake anymore. Maybe this whole thing is just a dream now. One long VHS tape rolling endlessly across your mind. But if you're still here, even just a little, just enough to hear the final hum, let me remind you, you're safe. You're home. You're okay. You're allowed to loop. To forget the ending. To fall asleep before the last line. Because this wasn't about staying awake. It was about remembering what it felt like. To drift. To giggle. To blink slowly at a glowing screen. Even if the night is different. Even if the pillow is new. Even if the room feels older than it used to. This moment, this feeling always comes back. A kind of gentle unraveling. Like threads loosening from your thoughts. Like buttons undone from your mind. You're not watching anymore. You're drifting. Channel after channel. Memory after memory. Color after color. It's like flipping through your own reruns. A personal late-night lineup stitched together from every sleepy cartoon, every lazy weekend, every moment you let go of the world and just existed. You don't need to see the picture clearly anymore. It's fuzzy on purpose. VHS blur, CRT glow, soft static that buzzes like a lullaby behind your eyes. You catch flashes. A bowl of cereal with rainbow marshmallows. The click of a TV remote too big for your hands. The hum of the fan in your room spinning like a clock made of dreams. A cartoon duck being flattened by an anvil and bouncing back like it's nothing. A laugh track that fades into your heartbeat. They aren't scenes anymore. They're sensations. You can't tell if it's the past, a dream, or just the brain's way of saying, it's okay now, you can rest. In this loop of memories, time doesn't work the way it used to. You're 7 years old and 70 years old all at once. You're the kid under the blanket and the adult looking back. The shows don't care how old you are. They only care that you're watching, or half watching, or listening while your eyes flutter closed. Because that's what they were always for, weren't they? Not just to entertain, but to comfort, to soothe, to fill the background when the world got too quiet or too loud. They didn't demand anything from you. They didn't test or challenge or judge. They just played like a friend who talks to fill the silence. Like white noise with a punchline. Like a warm blanket stitched from Saturday mornings and lazy summer nights. There's a special kind of peace that only comes from repetition. From loops that never change. From endings you've already seen. From characters that always return. Tom chases Jerry. Scooby snacks are eaten. While Coyote falls off the cliff again. You don't need a surprise. You don't want a twist. You want the rhythm. The pattern. The predictability that says, everything is exactly where it should be. Your body knows this rhythm. Your breath slows. Your limbs go soft. Your thoughts become quieter than the cartoons themselves. You're not just remembering these shows. You're reliving the way they made you feel. Back then, it wasn't just about watching cartoons. It was about ritual. The light turned low. The last snack eaten. The remote slipping from your hand. The final show playing in the dark like a lighthouse blinking you into dreams. You didn't think about sleep. Sleep just happened. One moment you were laughing at a duck in a sailor shirt. The next, you were gone. Not lost, just elsewhere. Somewhere safe. Somewhere soft. Somewhere made entirely of looping theme songs and glow-in-the-dark stars on your ceiling. And that's what this has all been. Not a story. Not a documentary. Not even a video. But a loop. A bedtime rerun built from half memories and full comfort. A place to be when you don't know where else to go. A signal that plays only when the world is quiet. A channel that doesn't judge you for drifting off before the end. Because there is no end. The credits roll, and then it starts again. You remember the sound of it all more than the plot. The soft whoosh of a cartoon wind. The cymbal crash of someone slipping on a banana. The exaggerated yawn of a sleepy bear in pajamas. Even the commercials had their place in the loop. Selling sugary snacks, loud toys, or action-packed VHS tapes. Voices pitching with way too much energy for how tired you already felt. They weren't ads. They were part of the texture. Like freckles on your favorite blanket. Like the creak of your mattress when you rolled over. Like the beep of the VCR clock blinking in the corner. Do you remember your favorite cartoon? Not the one you told your friends you liked, the real one. The one you watched alone. The one that didn't need to be cool or clever. It just made you feel okay. It made you feel like you were allowed to exist, even when the day hadn't gone right. Even when school was too much. Even when the house was too loud or too quiet. That cartoon didn't try to fix you. It just was there. That's the magic of the rerun. It doesn't care if you're watching with full attention or if you're halfway asleep. It doesn't ask questions. It doesn't end with a big message. It just loops, softly, quietly, endlessly. You wonder why they don't make shows like that anymore. Oh, maybe they still do. Maybe you've just outgrown the feeling, or thought you had. But it's still there, buried under the to-do lists and unread emails, beneath the adult worries and scrolling screens. Somewhere in your chest, there's still a flicker of static, of theme songs, of 2D characters who never age, never change, never say goodbye. They're still running around, somewhere inside, waiting for you to sit back, to listen, to smile, to close your eyes and go, yeah, I remember this one. You didn't realize how much you missed the feeling. The soft whir of the TV cooling down, the way your blanket would warm under you as you sunk into sleep. The strange silence of a house where the only sound was cartoon footsteps. This isn't just sleep. It's a ritual, an atmosphere, a memory you get to relive over and over, like the closing notes of a theme song you never forgot, like the smell of cereal and dust, like the way your eyes fluttered shut before the final punchline. Maybe you'll dream tonight. Maybe it'll be nonsense, talking animals, impossible physics, a pie to the face, a piano falling from the sky. And you'll laugh in your sleep. Because somehow, in all its chaos, it still makes sense. Because it always did. Because it always will. You've been on a journey not through plot, but through place, not through characters, but through feelings. Each section, each show, each sound was a soft nudge, a whispered cue, a reminder that even when everything changes, some things stay the same. A good rerun, a soft screen glow, a memory you can crawl inside like a blanket for it, and to finally let go. Welcome to the part of the night where everything just melts. Not into darkness, not into dreams, but into something quieter. This is the pure sleep zone, where you've already yawned 5 times, where you forgot what time it is, where your thoughts are half memories, half cartoon dialogue, floating around like feathers in a fan. You're not watching the screen anymore, you're just listening, half here, half gone. And that's exactly where you're supposed to be. You remember this feeling, don't you? It's the same as falling asleep on the couch when you were 7 years old. The TV was still on. Your head was crooked against the armrest. You had one sock on, one off. And no one woke you up. The world was soft back then. Even the cartoons were whispering by the end. No more chase scenes. No more punchlines. Just gentle transitions between shows, title cards and silence, characters frozen in funny poses, that familiar instrumental outro with the slow fade to black. You were in the liminal zone, somewhere between awake and dreaming. Eyes half open, mouth slightly open, body completely still. Not because you were trying to sleep, but because you had already let go. That's what the pure sleep zone really is. It's not a place, it's a state, a hum in your chest, a flicker behind your eyelids. The last place your brain goes before it shuts off the lights. And in that place, there's no pressure, no plot, no problems to solve. Just loops of old shows, fuzzy memories, and the occasional laugh track trailing off into nothing. Everything here is soft. The colors? Muted pastels like pajamas left out in the sun. The sounds? Low fidelity, as if they've traveled a long way to reach you over airwaves and time itself. The feeling? Safe. Always safe. You can picture it now. A quiet room. Your ceiling fan spinning slowly. The only light is from the TV, not bright enough to keep you awake, not dim enough to fully disappear. A cartoon character waves goodbye. Another one sneezes and floats off screen. A logo pops up in the corner. Then, silence. Not empty silence, comforting silence. The kind that says, shh, you've made it. The episode ends. Another one begins. You don't care what it is. Maybe it's one you've seen 1,000 times. Maybe it's one you forgot even existed. It doesn't matter anymore. The story isn't the point. The point is that it keeps going while you slowly, quietly don't. Your blanket is heavier now, not in weight, but in presence, like it's been charged with memories. It smells like a mixture of old fabric softener and Saturday mornings. Your pillow remembers the shape of your head from earlier. It cradles you like it's been waiting all day for this. The room is quiet, but the cartoons are still playing, and somehow that's perfect. In the pure sleep zone, cartoons don't need plots. Characters don't need arcs. The story doesn't need stakes. It just needs rhythm. the slow rhythm of classic reruns, the drumbeat of your heartbeat, the timing of old jokes you already know the punchline to. And it all loops in perfect sync with your breath. Imagine a looping bumper from the late 90s. Just background music, abstract shapes swirling, a sleepy dog curled up on a crescent moon. You might think, why does this make me sleepy? It's not just nostalgia, it's the repetition, the predictability, the quiet comfort of nothing changing. When everything in the real world is loud, fast, unpredictable, this little corner of cartoons stays the same. And your brain? It loves that, because your brain doesn't want excitement right now. It wants a rhythm it can ride into sleep. It wants a joke it's already heard. It wants Scooby laughing, Bugs Bunny chewing a carrot, Tom chasing Jerry but not catching him. Not because it's new, but because it isn't. And maybe there's one part of you still half awake that knows these shows were designed for noise and laughter and energy. But in the quiet haze of night, they become lullabies. They become tapestries woven from color and motion and memory. They become sleep medicine wrapped in animation. The ultimate comfort food for your brain. You've entered that stage where thoughts blend with dreams. You think you just heard Elmer Fudd say something, but maybe it was your own mind mumbling to itself. You think the screen just flashed white, but your eyes were closed. Time slips sideways here. Minutes become cartoons. Cartoons become memories. Memories become background noise. And all of it becomes nothing at all. Because in the pure sleep zone, there's no difference between remembering and dreaming. Everything just is. Do you remember the last thing you saw before drifting off? A cartoon character waving? A channel bumper from 2003? That weird cartoon where everything was pink and made no sense? You probably don't. And that's good. Because in this zone, remembering isn't the goal. Forgetting is. Letting your body go heavy. Letting your thoughts go fuzzy. Letting your memories blur into each other until there's no edge between now and then. Just soft loops. Endless reruns. Gentle noise. And you're breathing. In, out. Cartoon jingle. TV static. Ceiling fan hum. Fading. Even the Pillow Time logo, you can see it now hovering in your mind. Not real. Just there. Like a dream you're about to have. Like a memory you've already lost. It spins slowly. A soft pink glow. A little TV with a pillow for a screen. And you're inside it now. Background music fades to just heartbeat tempo. A single cartoon note plays, stretched, dreamy, familiar. You've crossed over, not into sleep, but into the moment before sleep, where everything is slow, where you forget you were watching something at all, where your mind is just a snow globe of reruns shaken gently, glowing from within. You're not even here anymore, but that's okay. That's the point. Because this is the pure sleep zone. It's not the show. It's not the sound. It's not the room. It's you. It's the part of you that's always been there since the first time you fell asleep to cartoons and didn't realize it until morning. The part of you that knows, if I just listen a little longer, if I just let the screen flicker, if I just stay still, sleep will come. And it does. It always does. Softest sound yet, a final chime. The whisper of a cartoon voice saying, Good night. We'll drift with you now. Into memory. Into nothing. Into sleep. You're barely here now. Your body's still in the room, sure, buried under blankets, cheek pressed against a warm pillow. But your mind, it's drifting, wandering, untethered. The TV glows softly in the dark like a nightlight from your childhood. Not too bright, not too loud. Just a quiet shimmer in the corner, whispering old stories that you've heard 1,000 times. Your eyes blink slow, your thoughts blur. Welcome. You've officially crossed into the pure sleep zone. This is the place where logic fades and memory mixes with make-believe. Where you might dream of Ed and Eddie building a theme park in your backyard. Or Dexter inventing a robot that makes pancakes, but they float. Or Courage the Cowardly Dog showing up at your school to walk you home because it's raining and you forgot your umbrella. Everything is just strange enough, but not scary, not sharp, like dreams dipped in bubble wrap. In the pure sleep zone, things that didn't make sense suddenly feel perfect. Like why Wile E. Coyote keeps buying from the AC Me catalog even though it always fails. Because you know the routine. You know the outcome. And somehow that loop, that familiarity is the lullaby. Hear sound takes on new meaning. A background laugh track becomes your heartbeat. A character yelling zoinks stretches like taffy in your ears. And the swoosh of a cartoon wind becomes the breeze in your dream. You're halfway between this world and the next, the conscious and subconscious, bridged by reruns and VHS fuzz. And there's nothing you need to do. No story to keep up with. No remote to hold. Just be still. Just float. The commercials here are fake, remember? They sell things like invisible pajamas or time travel bubblegum. Their jingle ends with a voice saying, now available in dreams near you. And somehow, that makes perfect sense. Every now and then, your brain stirs briefly, a flicker of alertness. You hear the Scooby-Doo gang set a trap and you smile. You catch a glimpse of Bugs Bunny popping out of a hole and saying, hey, what's up, Doc? You don't need to open your eyes. You just listen. Because in this zone, listening is enough. It's not about watching. It's about remembering how it felt. Falling asleep with the TV on in the background was never about needing to be entertained. It was about needing a presence. A soft, cartoon-shaped hand reaching through the static and saying, hey, you're not alone. This zone doesn't judge you for not finishing the episode. It expects you to drift off. It was made for it. The pacing is slow now. Characters stretch out their lines. Music fades gently. The laugh track gets quieter. And when an anvil falls from the sky, somehow it's almost soothing. Here, even chaos is calm. Even slapstick is sleepy. You're not just watching cartoons. You're sinking into them. Like a couch that remembers your shape, or like a blanket that smells like childhood. There's no need for plot twists. No cliffhangers. No big finales. Just comfort. Just rhythm. Just loops. You might hear a theme song echo through your half-conscious mind. Maybe the Powerpuff Girls saving Townsville one last time tonight. Maybe Johnny Bravo checking his hair. Maybe a Toonami voiceover whispering some futuristic quote that means everything and nothing at the same time. In the pure sleep zone, you don't have to understand. You just have to exist. The TV hums, the cartoons babble, and your breath slows down to match the tempo of a cartoon yawn. You're not dreaming yet, but you're almost there. You're in the waiting room, the intermission between memory and imagination. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the words, "We'll be right back." And for some reason, that's the most reassuring sentence in the universe. Because in this place, everything comes back. Everything returns. Everything loops. That's the magic of the Pure Sleep Zone. The loop never ends. That's the comfort of it. Good night, dreamer. We'll see you in the next video. Till then, like, share, and subscribe.